Okay, good evening. Meeting is being started. I'm Caitlin Thomas, one of the co-staff coordinators for the Trespass Towing Advisory Board, and welcome to the March 22nd. I'll hand it over to our chair, Detective James.
Hello, I think we'll just go around and just introduce the board real quick. My name is Jim Toomey, work with the Police Department Courts Licensing Compliance Unit, used to be the old hack office.
Al Leach with Al's Towing and Storage.
David Kennedy, resident representative.
All right. For the review of Robert's rules, which is on the thing, I mean, I'm assuming everybody, we sent it to everybody, so we don't need to. We have that just in case we need it. Approval of the agenda, the review, call for additional items. Everybody saw the agenda today. Yeah, that stuff. All right. Approval, unfinished business. Any for community concerns? No? Okay. Any for-
No, I'm
oh, wait. All right. And the tutorial on how the Commonwealth and Arlington implement tow ordinances.
I requested that.
All right.
I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I know there was this surcharge that was,
Yeah, the $20.
and I'm just trying to understand how.
Fuel charge.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just, that's something that the governor has to sign into law, and then how does that? So that was passed, signed into law, and then how does that work its way down to all localities throughout the state? I mean, is every locality, Arlington County, Fairfax County, et cetera, just has to implement that?
It's statewide.
Okay.
It's the governor's going to sign it, and it would start till July 1. Of course, John and we had our lobbyists down there, Matt Benka.
I'll give you a little bit more history behind it if you like.
Yeah, I just want to understand.
So without a black and white fee increase for the ordinance, because we have to go to the state every year to get an increase, and then in planning district A, we actually have to come back to the county in which to get the fee increase added if it's put in the state code. This year, we knew that a black and white fee increase from 150 to any other number would not survive one of the chambers in the legislative branch down there. So what the towers in the entire state that actually came down there, put our heads together, we decided since every aspect of everything that we do for our business has increased this past year, not only that, but with inflation, to add a $20 fuel surcharge would just cover a broad array of different charges that we have that are increased. And for example, our credit card take from $19.99 to $39.99. So the $20 is not just that, we're going to go 3 miles and come back 3 miles. That's what it was. The fuel surcharge was to cover all aspects without us having the ability to get a fee increase put into black and white this year, which we're going to, I've been added to a study that's going to be done to add a black and white increase for next year. So.
You're asking more about just implementing dates and everything, how that works with our code.
Well, I think that's a good starting point.
Right. So
And then the other, just, I think it's effective through.
It has a sunset date on it.
24, and then just disappear.
Yes, sir.
And then the next question then is, this is now law. What does the county have to do to implement law?
So
it's all about the language. So like it depends on shall or and whatnot. So if this how it whatever they've got shall, then we shall implement it. We are
There's no nuance to implement, because I know, I work in the world of federal implementation of law and various agencies, and there's always nuance depending on the language. This is pretty clear cut. It's just, but there is things like signage, for example. Signage might say how much the fee is, right? So now all the signage throughout the county would have to be fixed.
These are the signs aren't here in the county.
yeah, so there's no fee signs on like the
Okay.
signs.
Okay.
What we did implement a while back was a placard that goes on the trucks.
Okay.
But the police department takes care of that, and we are not going to be adding the fuel charge to the new placards. Because if we did, We'd have to constantly create new placards. They would have to constantly scrape off the old placard, put a new placard on. We do need to update the placard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the placard's been running for 2 years.
We are in the middle of the print shop for the new placard, because there's a fee increase that, on the old placards that we have on. So they'll be all getting new placards, but we're not gonna add the surcharge fees, kind of like what we did for the taxi cabs. So taxi cabs had a fuel surcharge added during COVID. And what they did is they put like a temporary sticker on their window next to the fees. We're not going to have the tow trucks do that, but we are, if it does get implemented by the county, we'll add it to our code with the expiration date of whatever the expiration date is for whatever the governor signs. So it'll be in there so people can be able to see it in black and white. It just won't be on the trucks themselves. Just because it cost us a lot of money to produce those placards. I didn't think it would, but apparently it is. Apparently we're using space age technology to make these placards for trucks. So we're just not, it's just one of those things where we're trying to reduce our costs. Right? We're not doing it.
Final question, how is the public made to know this? Because hopefully I don't get towed times every other month and notice, oh man, my tow fee went up $25. Hopefully that's not the case for me. But still, I think there should be some public.
So for us, we have it posted at our shop. It'll be posted that there is a fuel surcharge added to it that's in state code. I'm sure the rest of these guys will be doing the same thing.
It'll be advertised, Richmond advertises everything. It'll probably be on the news also.
Yeah, I'm sure Arlington now will carry it.
Yeah, it'll be advertised 7 ways to sending. And just to let you know, to go back a minute, Senator did his stuff down in Richmond. Really nice guy. Really got into it. He's going to do a study. He's taking it upon himself. He's going to get our books. He's going to see what we pay for trucks, what we pay for our lots, what we pay for our insurance, our workman's comp, our fuel, our upkeep. And they're going to do a study like they did in Fairfax in 2015. Fairfax in 2015, they had I forget what CPA for Fairfax County that saved them like $2 million a month on their electric bill, saved them all this, and he's famous. He met with me and Henry's and a couple other towers and gave them all our books. And they said $174 for just the tow. That was in 2015. And guess who never came to a meeting again after he said that in public? The county never let him come to the meeting ever again. So just to let you know what the battles that we're fighting, trying to get fair wages.
I do have one more question. And I think that, so beyond this particular surcharge, just, again, this is part of the interaction of the Commonwealth and the localities. Is every tow regulation start at the Commonwealth level? And is there then any ability for localities to, obviously they can't not follow the law, but implement some kind of practice according to what the locality wants to do?
Yeah, John, he was down in Richmond. We're working on that now, but I'll let John.
So with the state code in the Commonwealth being a Dillon rule state, whatever's in state code, black and white, the county can adopt. They just can't add anything more than what the state code allows. So, I'll give you an example, the consumer affairs stuff that was trying to be passed this year. Certain Delegate Lopez and Senator Verbola was trying to pass legislation to protect consumers, and those bills were killed. One bill was killed and she pulled her own because she knew it met the same fate on the other side. The towers were willing to sit down with Delegate Lopez, at least I was, to come up with a consumer protection type medium to where if we were getting the fee increase to where we needed to be so that we weren't operating, robbing Peter to pay Paul, we could operate our business the way we needed to. I was willing to come up with some type of consumer protection to give him so that we could, but at the end of the day, he didn't come to the table on time so that we were just at odds at that point. That's one of the reasons as to why the black and white code fee didn't go into effect and the new state code didn't represent that. And that's why there's going to be a sunset on the fuel surcharge bill, because hopefully there'll be a black and white fee increase next year in the state code that will have to be adopted by all unanimous throughout the state, and then we won't have this problem anymore. And we won't have to go down there and beg for a $20 fuel surcharge and such.
So, but for your purposes, you guys can work through whatever you want to make any kind of recommendations you want to the county board. So feel free.
But from what you're saying, I'll just make one up. And I'll use my experience because I was towed going to Citibank, but I parked in a really longer space. Even though Citibank's, I don't know why Citibank spaces are all at the other end of the
They pay for them.
Okay, but, so, if I said, you know what would be a really good idea for the county to have a slightly different type of signage?
And that's,
You know,
yeah, definitely,
would-
you guys
would-
discussed that.
Would the county be able to adopt that, even though it's not part of state code?
There is a signage part of state
There
code,
is.
and we do have a signage portion of our ordinance that we can tweak. So what the TTAB does is we make the recommendation to the county board. It's up to the county board whether or not to adopt it. Like recently, the TTAB unanimously voted for the increase to 150. We sent that to the county board. The county board decided not to do that increase, even though we, as the TTAB, had recommended to do so. So we can recommend stuff, they can listen, or they can make their own decisions, or tweak it the way the county board wants to tweak it.
You're also thinking of private property too, so it depends upon, somebody who owns a building, the county can't just go up there and say, okay, well, we're gonna put this sign up because we want to. The private property owner would have to give them permission to do that.
Right. But even in your example, it's not the 150 isn't part of state code.
But it.
It is.
Oh, it is
that's-
state.
That is
That's,
a
that's
state
where,
code.
like,
It
that's
is.
where that language, the 150, right? Like, and so that's where that's where the county, but as this next one says we shall do this, then that's what the language.
And if I hadn't gotten that $15, I would have been down in Richmond this past year looking for a $20 fuel surcharge. I spent 26 days down there, so much time and effort away from my business, my family. I would have much rather just the fee to be increased to a fair rate to be matching the rest of
We're
the
gonna address
rest of the
that
jurisdiction.
here.
Very
Okay,
good.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand, as we move us forward as a board, what we can collectively recommend to the county board, what we might not be able to, because there might be some things that absolutely they can't do because of the state code.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
like procedurally, we'll take this back to the attorney's office, and then they'll vet whatever you guys come up with, and then we'll go back and forth like that before it goes to the board. So there's definitely a few checks. They'll say like, oh, you can't do this, or,
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps, yeah. That's good for my tutorial.
All right, new business. So for the new business, we haven't touched the code in a very long time. There's a lot of outdated stuff in the code that we don't need, that I think is just a lot of filler. And I think the problem is with the, what I like the three of us to do is just kind of, less of a meeting, more of a work session, I call it, is to go through the code, find out what is still needed, what we do not need in the code anymore, because there are certain things that we just don't, that we're just not going to concern ourselves with. And then what I'd like to do is I threw in, which caused a little bit of a thing. I threw in what I was thinking in my little brain, which is not very powerful, as a way to get everybody to be playing on the same kind of field. Not just the towers, but like the towers, vendors, taxi cabs, and everybody else that we register, and then we have the information on file with the police department or the county, whichever one decides to do it. So that's what the red, I don't know if you saw it, but that's what the red portion of the code was, which is my little 2 cents. But I think it was collective. I think we should go through the code and just kind of go through because there's a lot of stuff that's outdated, and there's a lot of different stuff that we can use. Like, there's more cash apps now that we can maybe broaden that and say, look, you guys can take Venmo on the street as long as you just give them a receipt, or instead of getting cash, you can do any kind of other things. I think if we update it, I think we clean up the language in it. I think we can send to the county managers or to the county board a more modern, more concise, and more readable code, so that it's not filled with, I don't know, my Pennsylvania brain's can't handle all the legal jargon that's in here. I know they get paid a lot of money to write these things, but I'm just not quite there intellectually for it. So I think if we can clean it up a little bit and let so the common person can kind of read this thing, figure out, okay, this is my fees, this is what happened, this is why they do this is what this is. And then we can send it to them and then they can figure out what they want to do or not. So with that in mind, I'm hoping that we did send it out a little early. And one of the reasons I did is the hope that everybody can kind of read over it. I know Al's probably read this code probably just as many times as I had over and over again. I have nightmares about this code. So I think if we can kind of go through, and I just want to pick everybody's brain here at the table, because I think this is a good collective. We have county, we have towers, and we have the citizens impacted, and everybody here at the table is impacted. And I think this is a good board to be able to write a good recommendation to the county board to get it fixed. So with that, I'm going to say, do we want to go through line by line, or do you guys have your spot where you want to clean it up a little bit, or
Line by line's good, but you all suggested that, I sit on the Fairfax County Board too, and they had some similar issues years ago, and you talked to Mr. Wagner, I mean, they have no issues now. I mean, Arlington has less than what, one half of 1% or something, so, but they really, Fairfax, I think, has a model, and they go off state rates, and so.
yeah. So so like the first one, 14 point, there's the first two. The first one's the findings and the purpose. We don't need to go over that. Definitions, we don't need to go with that one. For 14.3-3, basically this is laying out the baseline of the trespass towing and everything like that. So going through this, I didn't make any changes to this. I don't have any recommendations unless you guys come up with one.
I mean, I think this is really helpful to just have a timeline.
Well, we're not going to get done with it. I don't think we're going to get done with going through this code in one meeting.
Okay.
I honestly don't think so.
So we can,
Yeah, we can take our time, walk
Okay.
through it, and yeah, because I don't think we're going to get done with this in one shot. This is it's a long code. It's an in-depth code, and there's a lot of different parts to it. So I think if we can just, if we walk slowly through it, I think that'll give us a better option to make the. So, go ahead, Dan.
So I have a recommendation. I don't know where you want to add to that, but I had offered this years ago, and Jay Facette was really close into doing this, but it got to a point where he'd rather have the violation and the tow complaint numbers be higher against us as opposed to satisfying the people that are making the complaints, in my opinion. This was my suggestion. The people that are making the complaints, when they make the complaints, we're talking about one half of 1% of all the people that get towed make the complaints. If it's a valid complaint or whether it's not a valid complaint, have a time set up to where, and I don't know if the other towers agree with this with me or not, I might get thrown at here because I haven't set it up with them, but the person making the complaint has really once they make the complaint, there's really no recourse for them unless they want to take us to court, go see a judge. Most people don't opt to do that, but when they do, I've never gone into court and lost. So I think that they would be served better by sitting down with the owner of the company, myself, talking about a handful of 60 times a year that I might have to make a phone call or sit down with somebody and talk with them, discuss with them as to why they got their car towed, who had the car towed, what the violation was, and give them some real meat to just being said, okay, well, there was no violation. Yes, there was a violation. You have a choice. You go see the court, blah, blah, blah. And it also gives me a chance, or an owner the chance, to make a recommendation as to, or make an offer as to whether or not you keep the complaint if it's valid. If it's not a complaint, keep it against the company, but maybe they're looking for some type of restitution back, half their money, a drop fee back, or some portion of the fee back if we're getting the state rate money.
Yeah, we're going to address that portion in the back because I did throw in something that we use for, so like it's towards the back. We're probably not going to reach it today, but the appeal section, which we have, we use an arbitrator for. So like if I deny a vendor permit across the street.
I
So-
saw all that stuff. but
Yeah,
the
so
problem-
if we deny that, then it goes to the arbitrator. The county already has it on staff. We're already paying for it. I've been up there since 2019. I think I've said no to one vendor permit. So I think that'd be, when we get to that point, we'll discuss it. But I think that would probably suffice for this, because I think a lot of people probably don't want to do one-on-one. Just,
Yeah, we can move on and then.
Yeah.
go.
So.
You see, that something's
So-
questionable because they, so I think it has to be come from the donors. You can't have an arbitrator show up. because they-
Well, it's just like Fairfax, they did a similar thing that people wanted to come to the meetings, citizens got towed. They were allowed, and I've been on it 11 years now, 2 people came. So, they'll take the time to write a complaint online, because that only takes a minute, but they're not gonna get in the car to come to a meeting because they know it was legit towed 9 times out of 10.
So
Now-
Would you?
I'll give you an example. Detective,
So we're just gonna, hold it to
Okay.
the end. We don't
We
mind.
have public comment at the end. But, do we have, so with those TTAB meetings, are those like specific to your complaints, or are they just integrated as part of the meetings? Or did you guys have like a panel to like hear people?
It was online, it was open that people could come in if they had complaints, citizens could talk to it too. Like I said, I think it's 2 in 11 years, so.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about complaints,
Yeah.
but I thought we were.
Yeah, no, we're trying to go.
Are we way ahead?
Yeah, we got,
Okay.
we jumped ahead on it.
Okay.
We jumped ahead. So, going on to 14.3, I didn't see anything that needed to be changed, but, anybody's got any questions on that one? Concerns?
I mean, at our next meeting, if we see
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
come
we
back
can,
to it.
so for the requirements for the property from which they're being, this is the sign, you know how you said you were talking about the sign? This is how long our sign portion of the ordinance is. And to me, I don't like this portion of it because it's a sign. It should be a standard sign. That's it. Like, we shouldn't, everybody's signs are all the same. So, I think if we just put, I don't know if we need to put so much language in there. But I think, everybody knows what needs to be on there. It needs to be, telephone number, company name, 24-hour, 24/7.
Lease number and the
Yeah.
national symbol, or
Yeah,
you see a
the
tow truck, that
Yeah.
means you're gonna get towed.
So I don't think we need, because I've never, to be honest with you, I've never gone to a sign, measured a sign to see if it was 12 by 18.
Right.
I'm just not going to do that. That's the minutia stuff. So I think we can clean this up and just make it so that it's a standard, whatever the standard sign, or DDOT sign is for that particular thing, which I think we can look that up. And then we can just put, I think everybody knows if they're going to get towed, it's going to be the owner's.
I don't agree with that either. I mean, it's not for free, they know that.
Yeah,
You know.
so, the tow truck sign, I'm fine with. Everybody's sign has a tow truck symbol of 24 hours, 24/7, because that's required in the code.
I actually think towing at owner's expense is that up there. I mean, it's inferred, but I think it's important to you guys.
it's the state code. It actually says in the state code, shut down on sign.
Oh, does it?
Oh,
All right, never mind. I need to stay in. Mommy, that one needs
I
to
mean,
be.
people can, and again, gonna complain, and that just gets. Not that I agree with that, but. Oh.
It's pretty standard all through,
Yeah,
Fairfax is the same.
yeah, everybody's
everywhere's the
signs
same,
are
so, I mean,
sign. That's why I don't think it needs to be this long, because everybody's standardized their own sign. The industry standardized their signs.
Even 12 by 18 is probably is that at the state, is that
Hey,
at
That's a minimum.
we've got some chat. Do you want to allow conversation with the chat and with members outside the board? We want to actually allow. Or how do we want to?
I'll leave it up to you guys.
You're the boss.
I am the
You're
chair.
the boss.
Sure, let's get I guess we can.
What about enforcement?
Now we can answer at the How about we move the chat to the end
Okay.
section, and then we'll just go through. Yeah, like I said, this is less of a meeting and more of a session kind of thing. But yeah, so the state code stuff, of course, but I think the industry itself is standardized for signs. I don't know if is it 12 by 18? I don't think 12 by 18 is listed in the state code.
Well, yeah, I think it is 12, yeah, John, it is 12 by 18 in the state code.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it in the state code?
It is a state
Yeah,
code.
but
That's
some,
a minimum.
like, so some places that we know that have like huge problems with parking.
You
Like,
guys put a bigger
I put
sign.
up, yeah, I put up 4 feet by 2 feet signs down at Clinton South Side. People still park there all day long,
Yeah.
walk off. But I saw, you leaving a standard 12 by 18 cover, I believe covers what you need to have in your code, but
Yeah.
we
Shopping
we
centers
do-
usually want 24
we do
by
go,
18.
we do go bigger.
No, that's fine. I mean, it does say no less, it shall be not less than.
Depends on the property owners too, they want a bulletin board everywhere.
All right. Everything else is already on the signs, but so I don't think there's. I think the 1/2 inch is in the state code as well. That's a DDOT thing. Parking spaces need to be done. For the surface parking that is marked, should we add in there that it needs to be redone like every 2 years, every year? Or is it just,
That's really up to the properties, I would assume, right?
well, I don't know, I'm not sure who, 'cause there's a few spots that we've seen that that are maintained by the tow company, and they do go back and resurf and re-stripe it. The problem is sometimes it gets worn down quicker because it's a busier spot. So the question is, do we want to put in the code that it has to be done like every 2 years, every 1 year?
So that,
We can't, we can't do anything with that, that's up to the property owners, and the property owners contact the towing company, it's just,
but I took it upon myself for the county to do that lot that you're referring to up there. I'm sure that you're talking about the one up by my lot, the Gold's Gym lot.
Yeah, that one's got
Okay,
a lot
well,
of
so,
traffic.
so that, I stenciled that one on my own because I was asked to do it by the county, not because, and I mentioned to the property manager and owner. They said, sure, go ahead and do it. So I did it, but it didn't make it into compliance any which way. I did it just because it made it a lot less confusing, but still, people still just park where they
Yeah.
want to. But I refresh it, what I do is I refresh it at the beginning of every fall, and I refresh it at the beginning of every spring. As soon as the weather breaks, that's when I do it. You can't do it in the winter because it just simply won't adhere to the ground.
That's why I was
But
trying
if
to.
you ever see a spot that needs to be spruced up, feel free to call me on your own, and I'll go out and go do it myself.
So I think we're on I flipped over to 14, the operator driver requirements and standards, unless anybody had any issues with the signage for today.
Question. Is this all specific, the sign back to the previous section, is it all specific to private property or I see some, I mean, is it equal when it's private property? I guess is the requirement equal for private property and public property? So I mean, like, I could get towed from, well, again, when I parked at the Bowie Monger's space, it was towed. Was that private property or public?
That was private.
Even though, because, what made it private property?
So the surface lots are owned by whoever owns the lot. So public property would be like the street or like the parking lot out here in front of the courthouse.
So I could be towed from the public, from here, could I?
You can't be towed under this ordinance from there. That would be a county tow, so that's a little different. It's under a different operation, under a trespass tow. If that makes any sense.
Well,
So like
This is
there's,
just for private
so
property.
yeah, this ordinance is only for private property. So
A lot
on
more expensive.
private property. So like if if you're parked out there, we need to tow your car. The county will call, we'll get one of our parking aides to call for our tow, which is separate and apart from these guys out here.
And we don't, we as this board has no,
Yeah,
we're never gonna discuss
Nope.
public. So, okay.
Yep, this is only private property stuff, no public stuff.
And then coming back to the Weemonger, that's, because the street's a public street,
Correct,
but that
the-
spot is then designated as private property.
correct.
So that's,
Because it's
I
a
mean,
surface lot, it's not, it's part of the, so over there, you're talking over by Glebe Road by Marymount, right?
Yeah.
That road that shoots in between the two buildings
Yeah.
is not a road. It's part of the parking lot for, it's a road. It
Really?
connects into the other side, but it's actually part of private property. It's not a public road.
They own those
Like, the
spaces.
county
that's why it's
doesn't,
what I
yeah,
want.
the
But
county
the
doesn't
road-
maintain it.
so
The management company owns the spaces.
Yeah.
Or the-
but the road is a public road.
You
The
can
road-
you can drive through it, the county doesn't maintain it. We don't plow it, we don't maintain the road, we don't touch that, we don't do any.
There's only a couple spots like that in the county I can think of. That location, the spot, the area over where the PF Chang's is, there's a portion of that little area that's a road, looks like it's a road that goes through, but it's also owned by private entities that are in both those buildings. They maintain it themselves. You can see when the county comes through, they only plow right up to their part where they're
Usually you
supposed
can-
to, and then they don't do the
You can
rest.
tell a private road from a public road, because usually the private
Okay,
road
sure.
is,
They clearly didn't
is
know
like
the answer.
tiled. It's like, it looks like the plaza out front, it's usually block or something nicer than asphalt. I think that one might actually be asphalt, but it's that.
It's got a little bit of cobblestone.
Yeah, so if you ever see that the county. Yeah, so it's kind of weird when you see it, and it's like, usually there's you'll be able to see it, there'll be like a weird line in the road that does like a transition from private to public. Sometimes it's clearer than other times, but there's usually a transition somewhere there. If we got snow, it'd be a lot easier to see, because it would still be closed. Yeah. Actually, that one would probably be plowed first.
-35, right?
Yep. I didn't see anything in here that needs to be changed or updated. I think everything's spot on.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, I think this is just the boilerplate copy and paste from the code section.
So I see on this number 3, it says upon request by an Arlington County law enforcement officer.
Mhm.
Towing. Right. So I guess, so that's just raising a question.
Mhm.
Towing from private property, county police would never be involved in a.
No, this,
So-
what this code section is saying is that I can stop the tow truck and ask for the above
Okay, right.
articles, their DCGS tow authorization card, vehicle insurance and stuff like that. Allows me to, if they're operating as a trespass towing truck, this gives me the ability to stop the truck and ask for that information.
So the county police are really not involved in any kind of towing action. They would just,
No.
they're totally accepting, in this situation, they can stop the truck and ask for credentials or whatever.
Yeah, part of like, so it's like, sometimes we'll do like spot checks. So like the code allows us to do that and allows us to go to the lots. We try to go once a year, however, we have not made it in a pretty long time. But we try to go once a year to inspect everybody's lot. Further in the code, you'll see that their lot has to have certain things, even if they're located outside the county, they still have to comply to what's in here, since the trespass towing under here. So the only one I did here was number 10. The tow truck driver shall properly secure all loads and meet all safety standards. All I did was add a little bit and just put prior to leaving the property, because that is a complaint that we get a lot from our officers who are on the road. Sometimes they don't strap the vehicle in before they leave the property, which is required under the state code. And I just wanted to codify that in our ordinance. I don't know if that's,
It's required when you get on a county street.
yeah, to do it, yeah.
Right.
So one of the things that we're seeing is that that's taken, quote, sometimes a little bit more liberally than others. We did have a long time ago, this is back in like 2002 down in Chris City. I was working down there and we had a tow truck come down 23rd Street and make the turn to the old Henry's lot. And the car wasn't strapped, and the next thing it does, landed in that 7-Eleven parking lot.
Not straight, yeah.
Yeah, so, we don't see, thank God, thank you guys, we do not see that. But I just, part of it is I think that it should be strapped, as it's, the problem is you guys can't stop on the county street to strap it, even though it should be strapped before you reach that street. So that's the only reason why I put that in. I don't know if that's going to cause any heartburn to.
Well, the problem is, we're trying to get out of there before we get shot at,
Well-
the day, and that's the world we live in now. But, most of my drivers, if it's an apartment complex, they'll go around the corner, in the same apartment complex. Now, if you're at the 7-Eleven on Lee Road, you're not going to have a choice but to strap it before you go to tow it safely. But, the thing is, these trucks these days are safe. You'd have to get rear-ended, or you'd have to go around the corner at 80 miles an hour to lose a car with the new generation of tow trucks we have. So, but if you go on the street, it's state law. You have to secure your load.
Well, this is one of the controversies. Again, this is not a gripe session. I didn't join this, but that was one of the controversies. Was traffic. So if that's yeah, I mean, to me, it's not clear then. This is not clear private versus public property. I mean, this to me is a very vague thing because, like you said, I mean, if the intent is to tow and not strap and then move to another location and then secure it.
A safer location.
But is that a good practice?
So
Is
we
that a
did-
good practice? Is that period?
It's safer, and we went through the same thing with Fairfax. It's against the law to not strap it when you get on the public road. And we have had police give us tickets before, even my company. Now, majority of these cars are all-wheel drive. So you've got to throw dollies, so you're out there 5 to 10 minutes. 5 minutes throwing dollies. I don't know if you know what dollies are. If you have an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, you have to put another set of 800-pound dollies on there. It takes 5 minutes. So that's security. That's securing it also, because the car's off the ground totally.
Is that necessarily, I mean, if people are gonna get shot, that's obviously that's a problem that needs to be addressed. If that's what the concern is. But what's wrong with taking 5 minutes to strap it properly versus doing it in 90 seconds and then properly strapping it somewhere else? Why would that not be a good practice?
Safety issues for the drivers.
Is it,
That
I think is important. We need to,
he'll tell you how many times we get called out. Our drivers get punched, they're throwing stuff through our windows. I mean, this happened.
Gun pulled in Crystal City.
Gun pulled in Crystal City. We had one of my dispatchers, guy got out of Arlington County Jail, come to get his car, got his car paid for it, went outside, pulled a 22 and shot all the windows out of my lot. It's just, it's the world we live in.
So
And, I just want,
what's to stop, I mean, that person, what's to stop that person to then show up at your shop and do their gun work?
there's nothing to stop them. There's nothing to stop them, but
I mean,
they're a little more perturbed when they're seeing, they're just like if your car gets repoed, they're a little more mad when they're right in front of you and the car's still in their space or where they're shopping, but,
So we can tweak this a little bit to say prior to leaving, prior to leaving the property, or we can say, instead of saying prior to leaving the property, we can say prior to entering the public street, it needs to follow state standards. It's basically,
what are your drivers doing in Arlington now?
So these cars, the way that they're built now, that without people leave their keys, the tires don't lock. Majority of them don't. So they shift when you're towing them. So to secure it properly, you might have to get out 2 or 3 times to do it. But my drivers know, and I believe all their drivers know, what it means to have the vehicle secure before you hit the public street. I am all for, if you see my driver without straps on, give him a ticket, show him right there, because we spent a lot of money on straps and ratchets just for that. I had a problem years ago with a certain officer. She wrote my drivers a couple of tickets, and before we knew it, they all started using their straps. So I'm all for it. We all know what it means. I have no problem. You can clean it up however you want to. It just needs to be secure by the time it hits the public street. And I think that the way you have it set now, Jim, you can stroke a ticket for anybody. It's been no problem. We've never contested one in court. None of my drivers have. You never lost one anyway. So we get a strap ticket, we pay it.
We'd be glad to, the next time, bring a wrecker here, hook up to my car and show you, or let you do it, and you can see it's a lot.
So,
I know you know now because you got towed, but it's a lot different than it was
so part of the code.
15 years ago.
Part of the code isn't just enforcement. It's also giving the public the information, right? So the public might not understand the ins and outs, right? So that's why I was adding it. It's not just for the enforcement. I mean, it's not always the ding tow company. It's to add the verbiage so that somebody reading it can go, okay, now I understand what's going on. Because, you know, to be honest with you, before I came up in the hack office, I dealt with the towers very frequently, and I had no idea how a tow truck even worked, right? So, but to educate, most public's not going to educate themselves unless they need to. And I think the one way to educate them is through the county code. I think it allows them to read it and then kind of digest it and say, okay, that's why this had to get strapped down, or this is why they had to add dollies, because it's part of the, it allows them to look at it and then kind of digest it and then understand what's kind of moving along with that. So that's why I added it in there. It's not, like I said, I don't think a lot of this stuff is there to help everybody kind of understand what's going on. I mean, we understand, yes, it needs to be slapped, it needs to be done because you don't want the car falling off, because now that's on you guys to repair the car. That's a lot of money. But I think it needs, I think it needs to be in there so that the public can understand why their car's getting strapped or why their car's getting jacked up onto the dolly system, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like two wheels separate of your car, goes under and it like jacks up to lift your car off of all four wheels.
We put your whole car on
Yeah.
four wheels and dollies. After it's all-wheel drive, the Teslas.
Yeah, so that doesn't burn out your back half of
Transmission
your
axle.
transmission back of your car.
So I'm curious, I mean, to me, it's really important. I'm curious with you guys, when it sounds like your drivers, your situation, what kind of training, is there some kind of training or advice to say, get out of there as quick as possible with the car, or do you say, or is there a try to de-escalate? I mean, how does?
We
I'm
have
just curious.
cameras. I mean, we have cameras in our trucks now that film the drivers, film all four sides and everything to keep everybody safe. But, of course, the drivers, we train the drivers, and we have to go through training to get out there safe, to secure the load and safely as possible. We don't want to escalate arguing with people. That's why they have the code for a drop fee. If the people come out and the car's still on the property, we have to drop it for a certain fee. So that pretty much covers it. But I agree, if that's not a big ask to secure the vehicle before it comes off into a public street. So I don't think we have a problem with that.
So I can, instead of writing it like, they'll say tow truck shall be properly secured, all loads meet all safety standards prior to entering a public roadway. Does that work?
Yes.
Because that's saying that, because what we don't want is like on a busy street, having a tow truck block traffic and causing an accident or whatever because they got strapped down. Not that they do that, but this is a hypothetical what if, kind of thing. So there's the hypothetical what
The
if.
police just have to make sure that they see a car going down the road within straps, they give them tickets because it's failure to secure a load.
Yeah.
What's the advantage though of, why would, again, if it's a lot, that's a private lot, you're saying if you hook it, you don't have to hook it up at that where you found the car, but you do have to hook it up. So you drive maybe 100 yards and then you have to properly hook it up? Is that how it would play out?
I think 99% of the time, they're going to be able to strap it right where they are. I don't think that's an issue for most of the tow drivers. There's that 1% that maybe they'll have to move it to a different section before they hit the lot. In Arlington, the surface lots are kind of small. They're not going to have a whole lot of space to move it around that much. unless you get to like down across the city where they have like the big surface lots over by some of the apartment complexes, that they can kind of move it to a different section of the lot. So I don't think this is going to be that much, it's not going to be that much more different than what they're, bad English, but you got what I meant. It's not going to be that much different than what they're currently operating under. I think it's just the ability for the public to see it, to say, okay, it needs to be strapped down prior. It's also good for, for the drivers to know, because they also, have to know this ordinance, that, yeah, I have to leave it prior, prior to leaving the property, I have to get that thing strapped down. So I got to move it somewhere on this property that I can safely strap it before I hit that public street. So.
So this is not controversial.
It's a state code anyway.
Yeah,
It
so
has to be,
everybody's in
anyway.
agreement.
Once a tow is a tow, it's a public street, it has to be strapped.
So the only difference for you guys is you're trying to go fast, you need to, rather than, because it sounds like there's a way to tow quickly without strapping. Right?
I mean,
To hook it up,
You could hook it up and,
and move it, but, if you're gonna make a lot of turns in the potholes and everything, you strap them, and that's a state law, because.
so what's the difference in time roughly between just hooking up and leaving versus strapping it properly? In a normal situation.
Mm,
You're not gonna know that.
Why?
I mean, you don't do 80% of the tow right
Well,
here.
yeah, but.
I'm just curious.
So may I speak, Jim? Thank you. So I couldn't give you a percentage amount, but vehicles, most people have front wheel drive vehicles. They pull in the vehicle's faced in first. That means the vehicle has to be backed out manually and then hooked up and then towed away because it has to go by the drivetrain wheels. Therefore, you'd strap the vehicle and then hit the public street. I've got I don't think anybody else in here does. We've all known what the state code has said for years, what the county requires. And if you catch one of my drivers hitting the street without a car strap, give a ticket. Unpaid. It's simple as that. They know what they're supposed to do. It's a safety issue for me, safety issue for them. There were more assault and batteries against my employees last year than were sustained towing complaints. So as far as, the safety issue goes, sure, it is a safety issue, but more or less they want to strap the car and get away. That's why the vehicles are called into the county forthwith in every county. So they're not done before the tow, they're done after the tow, the state code requires. So, I believe we got a 10-minute leeway on the county. What they allow is what we agreed upon. Fairfax County is what, an hour?
30 minutes.
30 minutes, Alexandria's 30 minutes, and we have to fax it to both of them, they call us back when they're ready, but a lot of times ECC is really busy here, so we sit on the phone for, we got videotapes of going on for 20, 30 minutes at a time.
we'll move into that one, John.
Yeah,
'Cause
all right.
we're actually, so any more, David? anything
I
else?
have follow-up questions to this, but
Oh, yeah.
not specific. I think we'll get to it.
Okay.
Well, here's where I'm kind of leading. From a just pure dollar sense, the quicker you can get out of there, the better. If I show up while you're strapping, is there something to address that situation?
There is. It's called the drop fee.
So that's,
Yeah,
we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's in here.
And it's
the fees.
regulated
It's,
by Arlington County and the state,
Okay.
Yeah,
what we can charge.
Okay,
so we'll get,
Okay.
that is there, because there is a drop fee.
okay.
Which is why, I don't know if you were in here when I mentioned it, but like part of it was like, with all the different cash apps that we have, like Venmo and all this other stuff, there's a way to be able to do that. It's not in our code for the drivers to accept it. So I think if we can give them the option to take it, then they can be out of there faster, less likely of having any competition with that. But we're good with the operator and driver requirements and standard practices. I like to, I don't know if we can do it, Caitlin, but I like to do like 6:30 cutoff for this.
Yeah.
And then we can move to the next agenda item so we don't have like a super long meeting. I don't know if everybody's in agreement with that.
Yes, sir.
And then we can revisit, we can set up another date for another meeting to kind of go over the rest. I know this is going to be painful and like bludgeoning. I'm sorry, but I think it needs to kind of go through just for our own as a TTAB to say, look, we went through the code, get it. And so, but for 43.6, that's a notice to the county, which was what John was alluding to. They have 10 minutes to call it in. There are going to be changes to this one. We're just not up and ready for it yet. We're starting, ECC is going to start a new way of doing it, which is through a website. So they can go to a website, you plug in the information, it automatically enters into
That's
our
great.
CAD
So
system.
what Fairfax does and it's working great.
Yeah, the
That's
problem
great.
is
So right for our
Arlington,
system, right?
Arlington
Very
likes to go a little slower with stuff, and we're not quite there yet. Once we are, we'll add it to, you know, I'll give it out. We'll figure out how we have to word that in here to make it fit, because
I got you.
the phone call is, it is a pain. It's a pain for our ECC. They're short-staffed. They're overworked. Last thing they need to do is take a phone call and enter all that stuff manually and then run it through VSIN. So we can do it automatically. I think that'll make it quicker on everybody's end.
That'd
And
be
it will
great.
also give us better record tracking. There's a funny story. When I first started, I was pre-academy. I was working in our dispatch center, and that was my job, was to enter all the PTOs. And nobody told me that the enter button wasn't the enter button. The enter button on our system, it was a clear screen button. And so what ended up happening is I must have entered like 300 toes in the 2 months that I was up there prior to going to the academy. And I kept hitting enter, and the screen would go. I'm like, okay, this is great. And so like 300 toes, I never entered, and we ended up doing like 100 some odd stolen vehicle reports, and they were all scattered at all the lots around here. So there's a human error part that we want to get rid of, and part of that is to go a little bit more technical. Luckily, the new people that we hire are a lot smarter than I am, and they don't do that.
I just wanted to note that this is a public meeting, and we'll be noting that on your, making sure that that's
There's
noted
a
as part
statute
of,
of
as part of your retirement when that happens.
the statute of limitations is long past on all that.
Congratulations on all your promotions, Jim.
Industry would definitely like to see that.
That's gonna be a great system. Like I said, Fairfax does it, and they can tell, you know, like the people that don't have their tow license,
Yeah.
calling in cars, you know, they're being towed and they're finding and they're doing all kinds of things.
So that's
So
what
they'll
we're,
save you a lot of time and money.
so that's what we're trying to get up. So this part's going to change a little bit. I did add under 5. I did add when they call in the name of the individual or entity who signed the trespass towing contract authorizing the tow. The reason is sometimes our ECC, this is mostly for them to ask that question because they don't ask it a lot, and so we don't get who authorized it, who's on the authorization for the tow, and it makes it a little harder for us to. This is only for the call-in. It's not for anything else. It's just for when you guys call in to us to report that you guys towed a car.
You want us to tell you who had the car towed?
We want to know
They do now.
who signed the contract for you guys, not you know, Al, you know, calling it in.
Not learner group or learner management? You
We
want
just
the-
want, yeah, whoever signed it is, you know, what we need so that we can, it'll help us later if we have any
Make it
questions.
registered agent, so usually calling in,
Yeah, that's,
person
you know,
calls
like-
in.
Because a lot of people call, you know, they come in, they're mad because they're having to pay the $150. They want to know the person's name and phone number. We're not going to give it to them.
Yeah, that's
That's how-
why we're asking for our records so that we have it, part of our,
But you don't give that out to
Authorization,
anybody,
no.
correct?
our ECC records are not public
Then
domain.
that's no big deal.
I thought when you actually showed me something that.
I had no problem
wasn't-
showing you, because
The contract.
the people that I work for there have no problem with, their office is literally 50 feet from where you're towed, so you can go find them yourself if you want to. So they have no problem with me, you know, putting out their information or whatever. They don't worry about a brick coming through their window. It's the garden style mom and pop apartments type stuff where have ladies working in the office by themselves and people get their cars towed. I can't think of her name, that Magnolia College years ago. Somebody came inside and shut the door and threatened her because her car had been towed, and she, you know, they don't want to know who had their car towed, so they don't go back and retribute against them.
Well,
So I've got no problem telling
We
the police
actually
department and the
address
county.
the contract part, what the public can see and what the public can't see, and also inside the code.
I've got no
So-
problem handing over my contract to Jim or to the county manager office, any of them, no problem. So in my clients, I've only got a few that just demand that their entity be kept quiet.
And it is, I mean, they're required to show who signed the contract.
Right. So if you ask for the contract at the window, they're required under our code. And we'll get to that portion,
You'll get that.
yeah, in a few minutes.
But the bottom line is if I can't find out.
Yeah, because they'll have to give you the contract at the window.
I believe that we talked about this years ago, Jim. Did we agree that 48 business hours on the Monday or Tuesday before the contract is made available? Because
The county code requires that if they ask at the window, if
So
they're
that
at
was-
your place, they require that you let them see it.
right, but the previous hack inspector that was here, when we went over that, they knew that, you know, Friday evening, if I'm gone, everybody's, the office is locked up, they don't have access to the contracts. They're not gonna be able to get it till Monday morning. So
I mean, unfortunately, that's not,
I understand.
we'll get to that, but
We went over that
it's
before.
not
It was
in-
supposed to be-
I don't even agree with that. I believe that contracts between me and the
Yeah.
management company in Fairfax, the
Right.
same way. If they have a problem, they can write a letter, Consumer Affairs answers it. We have to answer that within, 72 hours and get the answer of it.
I got no problem showing the rules, but I'm not gonna give the entity.
You know, if you owned a Pizza Hut or something and you had 10 spaces in Arlington and people that were across the street at another restaurant, you would have them towed. You wouldn't want your name given out, I'm sure.
Right, yeah,
But
but.
I'm
yeah.
positive you wouldn't.
No, I definitely
Yeah.
wouldn't. I get,
Right.
well, I'm just, yeah, I think this is another, I'm up on 11.
But we have to give it to the
But-
police.
I've got no problem giving it to the police and the county manager, but a private contract's a private contract. Somebody's signature and name on it and phone number.
when we get to the contract fee, we can do that.
Okay,
Just, we'll pause that one.
Sorry.
Until we get to the contract portion of it, 'cause that is addressed in here, the county. Contract portion. Now, let's, if everybody's in agreement, we can pause this here at, I'll make a note that we're at section storage facility. And like I said, I am sorry, this is mind-numbingly boring.
Not for me. My life.
But I think, like I said, I think it's important that we go through code just to update it and get a fresh look and do what we need to do. So the next part, is went through permitting. We didn't go through. We're going to pass permitting and registration for tonight. I think that we can address at a later meeting to, because that's not the main reason why I wanted to go through the code. I want to go through the code to make it educational for everybody, for the county, for the public, for the towers, make it so that it's, to make it sure that we're doing what we need to be doing as a TTAB to keep our eyes on making sure this thing's not going to get to like 20,000 pages because we're not deleting old stuff, and that we add stuff that we need to add into it. Caitlin, the Consumer Bill of Rights.
Yes.
I'm assuming one of the, this was one of you guys. So this, I mean, I think this previous conversation actually segues perfectly because I think it's really important to know things. Traffic, that's really important. We didn't talk about, I think, drop fee. But I think what I kind of getting at is more, public needs to know how this all works. Because it is such a confrontational.
It's supposed to be posted on the back of our tow truck. So they have that
Public
information.
comment
We'll get
is
to
the
the.
agenda.
I got you. I do 80% of the towing in the county, so
I understand.
I know.
I'm not just the public. I got a
Public,
huge stakeholder.
It's with the board.
Okay, yeah, did you have a problem? Because I've answered about 20 questions that he's asked.
I know.
Have
John,
you had
just-
a problem with it? That's fine.
No.
I appreciate that. Thank
The
you.
conversation's good. I mean, no, I just, I feel like this is a business that's got a lot of bad will in it. I think there should be something about, there's gotta be a way to bring some more goodwill into it. And, you know, it's never gonna, a tow's never gonna be popular. But I mean, I think if there's opportunities for transparency, more transparency, if there's opportunities for understanding an appeal process, for example, if there's opportunities for just, code of conduct, I just think, there's still gonna be people who are just pissed off. I just think there could be an opportunity for just better outcomes.
Can I answer?
These, You know, we've tried, like I said, in Fairfax and Alexandria, we've tried, but some people are gonna, we have, you know, in our credit cards, it tells you how many return customers. We're getting 3 and 4 a month, the same people park and get towed. You know, I mean, you could put a billboard up, you could put it on the Goodyear blimp, and the people, they're gonna say, I'm only there for a minute, nobody will catch me this time, and it just happens. We have to have the best equipment, we have to have the certified drivers through the state, we have to take special training. Lots are very expensive, our drivers, you know, we're not getting drivers anymore that are coming out of college and want to be tow truck drivers. Those days are over. We have to pay a premium because you can't find policemen, you can't find tow truck drivers, you really can't. We have offered the county to quarterly, we've talked about it, quarterly have a little session. If somebody's got towed and they think the towing company was in the wrong, we will meet with them. If we're in the wrong, we'll refund their money or we'll work something out with them. We've tried everything. That's what we did with Fairfax County, and it's really done great. But as far as, you know, like I said, putting a billboard out or, you know, putting a video sign, your car could get towed, I don't know, there is nothing else. People have to use common sense, and common sense is, there's a shortage of it in the world these days. And, you know,
I think the problem is what they're doing is important, because if they weren't doing what they were if they weren't doing what they do, there would be a lot more issues going on in the county. Because people would drive into the county to park, to go to the metro. There'd be an overabundance of cars that are parked here that aren't utilizing the businesses, the shops, and aren't spending their money here in Arlington because they're just driving in to grab the metro, and that's it, because they don't want to pay for parking in DC, or they don't want to pay for parking. So I think they do their job is important.
it's a service.
It is, and I think it's not only for the businesses, but it's also for the consumer who's going to shop at that store. The problem is, and I think it's just like you said, it is a confrontational. Their consumers are unwilling consumers, or not unwilling. That's a bad word.
Illegal parkers.
Yeah, they're not people who are going out to buy something to visit a shop. They're a different kind of consumer.
Trespassing, and it's
Yeah.
illegal, just like if you get a speeding ticket. You know.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah. And so I think, just like when we pull somebody over, they don't like to see us when we're pulling them over for speeding. You know, it's a different interaction that's going on. I think.
And one other thing that, you know, the county board, you know, we've had these work sessions. I've sat on this board. We all make great progress. As soon as we go to the board, there's a couple of board members that are not going to give you $1 more. They're trying to get a 40% raise for the board members and won't give the tow truck driver a raise within 9 years. If they call us predatory towing. Okay, if it's predatory towing, when the police officer runs radar, what is that? Is that predatory? You know, I mean, it's the law. People are breaking the law. They're going to get a ticket. And that's the same thing that the towers do.
Which is one of the reasons why, when I was trying to figure out what the TTAB should be doing, and I think going through the code, like we're doing, and not just adding stuff, I think that will, at least I'm hoping, no one knows what the board's ever going to do. But I'm hoping that by going through the code as a TTAB, that we can show them that, look, we are honestly taking a serious look at this code. This is the stuff that needs to be, in our opinion, as a TTAB, needs to be changed or modified or added or deleted. And hopefully that will give them a little bit more, I don't know, comfort into making that decisions that they're going to have to need to make. In regards to your consumer bill of rights, I know I skipped over the registration and permitting. I think that when we get to it, which I know is going to cause some angst, but I think if we can get to it, I think that'll address a lot of your concerns about consumer protections, about the people's protections. It also adds a little bit of layer of protection for the towers and everybody else involved. But I think if we can get to that particular portion later on, or the next meeting.
Is that in the code?
Yeah, it's the red part. It's not in the code.
And it's fine if we table it, and maybe where I'm coming from, maybe the consumer bill of rights, and I do think consumer protections is the terminology. Consumer bill of rights might not be the right one, But maybe there is something about mutual responsibilities that could actually be more effective, because I think you're saying the important, why this is important for the county to have private towers. I mean, there's a really important reason for it. And, you know, maybe you guys shouldn't, maybe if there was something about mutual responsibilities, it would kind of suggest you guys aren't the bad guys, you know, and maybe that's where we have to get to, that there are mutual responsibilities here. There are responsibilities, me as a consumer being a consumer of a parking space, let's say, that I have to adhere to. But then there's also responsibilities of the tow that I think could be more clear. You know, again, I'll come back to the drop fee as a really good example. I don't think there is I don't think that's understood. To me, it's a brand new term, and I think that should actually be, should be a more transparent, understood term. I also think then the engagement, you know, maybe it's just you know, maybe that, again, I think I think I have a responsibility. If I confront a tow driver who's towed my car, I have a responsibility to be respectful. And, you know, that's not my inclination, because you already said it. If someone's getting towed, they are pissed. But if there is some kind of ground rule that if we engage on site in the middle of a tow, if it's clear what our mutual responsibilities are, maybe doesn't have to be, if I know that I could pay, you know, I don't know what the drop fee is, $20.
10.
If I know that, and I come out and you're towing, I'm not gonna pull out my shotgun. I'm just not gonna do it, because $20 is a small price to pay to avoid the confrontation. And maybe that's not your experience, but maybe the public doesn't know that they can pay.
I personally do not allow my drivers to do drop fees, because that's where all the arguments and the fighting comes from. Whether it was $1, Fairfax County's $50, state code's $50. Whether it's $1 or $50, you're gonna have an issue 9 times out of 10. So I just tell my drivers to drop it and you'll get it some other day. But I'm not in the impound business 100%. Most of mine is police.
So you drop it, you drop it, but don't take the fee.
Don't charge them, because you know, we're gonna get them again.
For me,
They'll
it's
be
not
there
worth
the
$10.
next time.
We just keep going.
Yeah.
Since I lowered it to $10, we just keep moving.
Yeah, it's not worth the hassle. I'm sure John and, you know, I'm sure a lot of them don't charge it either.
But what it did
It's not
was
worth
take a
writing the
turn
ticket
away,
up
it
to
took a turn
$10.
away from the actual property owner, because they really have nobody playing when they're playing cat and mouse on the property. We're not gonna sit there all day long and enforce whatever, but by making it $10, you know, you park your vehicle in the street for $10 for 2 hours, so people are gonna take that chance to park there, be close to their car, to run back out to it, and catch you.
And that happens.
But it's just not worth it to me at all. I don't care if it's $25 or $50. I don't like the drop fee. I never have. I asked to be removed years ago, and they had to put it back in because it took away a tool from the property owners. It's not something the towing industry, at least for me, I don't thrive off of it. I never have. I just like to see the higher fee for the tow, and the rest of the stuff in the ordinance is all geared up to go for the consumer anyway.
That's where we're working towards.
There's not one section of this code that's good for the tower, except for what could be the fee section. Everything else is geared up to protect the consumer, which I'm good with. But your comment about having 2 people come together well, that has to be done, and it has to be done to state code. It has to be added into the state code, and I was willing to do that. Well, with Delegate Lopez, if he's still on there, I don't see he's on there. Oh, yes, he's still on there. I'm willing to sit down with him and help him get that language into code, so long as we're getting a higher fee.
If we don't mind, just kind of, we don't want to, you know, sorry, I don't want to cut anybody short, but.
I guess I guess I don't know. I mean, hearing somebody, you know, if I go to Facebook or whatever, towing comes up, you know, people have really egregious stories of what I would consider unfair tows. You're talking, I've heard a lot about the repeat offender, which seems like, you know, that's the legitimate, that's the tow that's really important. You know, just the stories of, you know, my friend who's pregnant parking at Gold's Gym, you know, I guess it was a legitimate tow, but, you know what, a snowy day.
So when do you think it'd be good if I would be able to sit down with that customer and say,
Hey,
listen,
John,
we said we
I
make
don't know, I
mediation?
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Well,
think
what
so.
you do, at next meeting, to kind of help you out, to understand what's
Yeah.
actually going on in the county, we can pull the tow data. I'll send it to everybody earlier, and you can actually see what's actually happening.
that would be good, that would be really
Most of the
helpful.
complaints, and they are right, most of the complaints that do come in are not in violation of county, not in violation of the county code, not in violation of the state code. And the ones that are usually like, it's a minor, there's never been like a major violation per se.
And the ones you see on Facebook and Yelp,
So,
that, you know, you can take those with a grain of salt. Just real quick, the story was on national news that the ESPN reporter, the lady came in, John towed her car from a bar. She came in and called this dispatcher everything but a Catholic. I mean, really, thank God they record it. You know, she said the dispatcher was rude, the dispatcher this, they damaged my car, she was drunk. ESPN reporter, and I think she got laid off
She got
for that.
fired.
She got fired. You know, they had it all on tape that the person at the counter was nice as she could be, but they called her, said her teeth were rotten, she was ugly, you know, and she went right out and put on Facebook or Google and everything that advanced towing was so rude. Well, it's not true. They had it all recorded. So you can read all the Yelp and Google or whatever. A lot of it's just BS, to be honest with you. It truly is. Maybe 1 out of 100, maybe had a little, the right gripe, but. You know,
Jim, if I could offer just a little from staff perspective, you care. What I'm hearing, David, is that there's a communications gap, right? Like, we have information on the website. Kayla and I were talking about this earlier. There's 3 at least pages that reference towing. You mentioned private versus public property and tows that are different because police directed them or they were directed by a private property owner. I think cleaning some of that up is definitely, we have cleaned it up, but we could do better. And I think we look for the TTAB's assistance in trying to help offer some guidance on what could be more clear. I've heard that we need to be thinking about who our consumers of information are, not just the person getting towed, but perhaps the person that got towed and wants to know more about towing. I think the towing operators have offered a lot of insights probably that you're finding useful, knowing their perspective on, what it means for a tow truck driver to enter private property, late at night in conditions that are potentially unsafe for them. And that's information that we don't necessarily share on the website, and perhaps we could, in fairness to both the consumer and the business, so that to your point on mutual understanding, also mutual respect. We can certainly do better on communications, but that does fall back to the county, where there's limited resources there. So for whatever it's worth, if you can be a force multiplier to help us build a communications profile. We have an FAQ on the website. We can do better. We can share all that information, make sure you have all those websites and take a look at them, and then offer your feedback. And for the towers as well, if there's information that you think would benefit your consumers, the people getting towed, we'd be happy to add that information as well. For John, if you're willing to self-mediate or arbitrate tows that occur with advanced towing, and if other operators were willing to do that, we can put that information on the website as well and offer it directly. I know John's offered his contact information, and if he doesn't mind, we can put it publicly on the website. I think that's an act of good faith and something we can certainly work on. So all of that, maybe it doesn't necessarily qualify as a consumer bill of rights, but something we'd be willing to do as an interim. So you can chew on that, take it, and we can work with it.
That's great.
are we good for consumer bill of rights for now? We always readdress it.
Yeah, no, this is, I wasn't expecting to have it written.
What? You kidding?
And I like mutual responsibility that doesn't, consumer protection is an important, really important part of it, but that's just a part of mutual responsibility.
We do the same thing with tenants and landlords, right? It's another common area of dispute. We try to balance things. The county's, not necessarily biasing ourselves to consumer or the business, but we try to do a fair job of letting everybody know what everybody's roles are.
So for next steps and timeline, I think we're going to need to, me personally, I could be just out of limb because I love meetings. I'm that weird guy that just loves meetings. But I think that we could set up another meeting/work session. I like to call it a work session, not so much a meeting. But I think we should probably set up another one. I was thinking quarterly, but the problem with doing it that long, like, 3 months out, is we might forget where we are here now, and then we'll have to redo all that, and then, so I'm wondering if we want to meet sooner than that, but it's up to you.
When's the next board meeting? County board meeting?
Happen every month.
15th.
Do you want to meet on the
Third
same
Saturday.
night?
Third Saturday?
We doing missing middle again?
Maybe,
No.
maybe we can try to get everything done by the one more meeting and try to get before, the board before, I guess, what do you say, June, July?
So the end product's trying to get this document finished. That's the goal.
That would be the goal, is to try to get this done so that we can come up with a mutually agreeable ordinance that makes sense to everybody that's involved.
So I just want to throw this out there that whatever, we could definitely go to a board meeting, but whenever you guys make a recommendation, we will transmit a letter to the board within a couple nights, the next day or so.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, that'll go to the board, but if, going on the board meeting, then that does require a little bit of, lead time. But whatever you guys agree, we'll definitely pass that on to the board.
Mr. DeFerranti's voiced expressed some interest in, perhaps attending a TTAB meeting, getting feedback directly, and maybe that'd be offer an opportunity to sort of step into that space without having to go to a board meeting. Because again, if you're presenting recommendations to the board, we have to do notice requirements. There's notice requirements. There's months of lead. There's at least 2 months of lead time there that you got to factor in. But I think if you're starting at kind of a recommendation position, yeah, doing that in the next 2 months would probably be reasonable.
Okay.
So,
Great.
The police towing monetary amount was increased like at night, overnight. It just showed up the next, I looked at the police and it was there. They raised it to get the police tower to come back to Arlington because he couldn't do it at the rate that I'm towing at 135. He's actually getting 165 for the original tow, $65 for each day of storage, which he estimates that he gets 4 days of storage for each car. So essentially, with the administration fees, almost getting $500 for every tow that's directed by the police department.
The
Almost.
TTAB addressed that last meeting. We actually unanimously.
You did. You unanimously decided to go up to 150, which is great.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're still stuck at 135 until we get back in front of the board. That's why I was down in Richmond, because I'm not going to be around next year if we didn't get that fuel surcharge. We won't be. And as far as the money goes, there's not a lot of profit in telling you. And I'm the last person left at the storage yard in Arlington County.
Yeah, we can. We'll
We needed something before them. Police towers got their money overnight because they started calling me to do the police tows because the police tower was no longer here. He was down in, down doing his work down the road. And I was like, listen, I can't come help you because I don't have the contract to do the police towing. And I actually advised the police towing captain back then. They had me on the board to advise them as who to use. And I recommended who they use and they use now. But there was a price that was offered then. And that price was never, if they're going to increase the fees or do anything else, that contract needed to be renegotiated. It never was.
Right.
All the people should have brought to the table to rebid that contract. It never happened. It happened overnight.
Yeah, that's not. Unfortunately, that's not.
I understand.
But
we've always been.
I'm not. I'm not.
I know, but what I would just want to get on record is that we've always been compared to the price of the police tower. I've never been able to increase my fee because they've always come in at 135, and I've always been compared to. It was the last thing the county had to say, well, listen, our police
I
tower's
believe
over
the
135.
TTAB the last almost 3 years has
Has
recommended.
recommended.
And we can only make a recommendation. We can't.
Right.
We're asking for state rates because
Yeah.
I just want to get it on record, that's all. As they're taking records today, I just want to make sure that it's known that,
We can.
You know, the
As
police
public,
towing rate
we
was
can do that.
increased.
We have a public comment part at the end.
like Mr. Kennedy, you have to
I
understand.
thought we were there.
People
Sorry.
down in Roanoke that store in gas stations and on farms, and that's true, down in Richmond, my lot costs $3 million. I'm not sure what yours costs. It's a little different, and the people down in there are getting the same money. We're getting less than the people down in Roanoke storing on, $1,000 piece of property. And there's a real problem with it. And if we could get state rates, we could get in front of the board and just state rates. Senator Steph is doing a study that he's using George Mason University. We're all sitting down and giving them our books. This is going to be done in 24. Then the county would know what fair rates for what we do as a business.
So why don't we do this for the next meeting setup, to help push the timeline a little bit faster, would an April, May meeting be good? I mean, I don't want to do a meeting every month because I don't want to, bog everybody down with meetings, but I think until I think we can crank it, we don't need to pick a date today. But if we want to set it up for April, May, and then we can send out, we'll send out a thing trying to figure out what day everybody's good. But I mean, we're meeting, today's what, the 22nd, so we want to do end of April, maybe the beginning of May, while it's still fresh in our heads, because I'm getting old.
Would next month, same
Set up
time,
whatever.
would that be,
So I think if we can set it up, if we do it, then I think we're almost there. We're about halfway, a little bit over halfway through. So I think we can probably knock that out and then get to the meat and bones of what kind of recommendations here we want to make. And then send that to, do that, what we need to do to get onto the schedule. And maybe even have an extra meeting after we get it done here to have a county board member come in to sit down and we can, as a TTAB, say, look, this is why we're making these recommendations. This is what we think would be best practices.
You see is the fee recommendation tied into?
There is a fee portion in here,
Oh,
which
okay,
is
so
actually, it's
so
actually,
okay.
we can go through because the section 14.3-9 is the fees. And we can go through that portion of it and make our recommendations again. I know we've made recommendations separately a few times on doing it. In fact, I think, could be wrong, it's a little bit of time, but I believe we did, I think we were asking for, at one point, asking for an increase in the drop fee and asking for an increase in the regular fees. And the county board went a different direction for what the TTAB was recommending at that particular point in time. But I think if we show, we come in there and say, look, I think we come in there with a little bit more than just a recommendation to raise fees. And we show that, look, we're trying to protect this party, we're trying to protect this party. And I think as the TTAB comes together and we can do that, that old thing, a compromised bill, right? And we make a compromise ordinance, I think that will help the board a little bit more with making a decision or making, help them understand what's going on here. Because I'm assuming that some of the board are kind of like everybody else. They don't know what they don't know, they don't know, right? They don't deal with it. It's not like on the top of their radar. They're trying to fix other things, and this probably gets kicked the can a little bit, but it does have impact. It has impact on companies, it has impact on the citizens, it has impact on the visitors, and I think it's important that we as a TTAB try to do our due diligence to make it better and run a little smoother. So, sorry to be long-winded, but so what we can do is, for April and May, we'll get together, we'll shoot up some emails, and we'll try to get a date that works mutually for everybody. For that. For the other, does anybody else have anything else? And I'll open it up for public comment. We're going to do, I think, 3 minutes piece for public comment. So if anybody has anything that they want to say, we can do that now. Anybody on the?
Now you're quiet, John?
I said everything I needed to say. I mean, it is what it is. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, and
Well,
I
that
think
will come to that.
the mediation process I believe would work. I really do. I've seen so many people that make complaints. They make them to me on Monday morning after the car's been towed over the weekend, and I talk to them on the phone. By the time I'm done talking to them, I've even given back concession without even or anybody else knowing about it. I make the decision. We told a lady who's 90 years old the other day, and we didn't know it. She parked in the wrong doctor's spot. Was not, the other doctor had her towed. She came to our facility, picked up her car. She's got on the, I talked to her on the phone. She was born in 1933. My grandfather rolled on his grave and died twice. I knew I charged somebody, so I gave her money back. And nobody sees that. But we don't have that mechanism anymore. They're towing for affordable housing in Arlington County. They demand that we come and tow because they need the parking spaces. But guess who they're usually towing? They're towing the people that live there. They don't have the money to pay for their cars. So I get a phone call from the manager of the property owner, the people, can you please give the car back? No problem. Come in. That's stuff nobody else sees. You know, the drop fee being released down to $10. Cat and mouse games all over the county now. We don't charge the drop fee anymore. My drivers just move on. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting a fist fight over it or anything else, because my drivers aren't the ones that are upset. It's the people get their cars that are upset. Like you were upset that day, right? And then you calm down, you get to our facility and you talk to me. I think that if my talking to me, as far as anybody making a complaint and just letting it go to the county and then, you know, decide whether or not if we made a violation or not. If the complaint's simply, oh, I parked, I knew I wasn't supposed to park and I went across the street and I got my car towed, because that was 16 complaints that went to the Attorney General that showed up in court and had absolutely no merit and threw it out. So I just would like to deal with the complaints when people have legitimate complaint. And I like to hear the story. The lady was pregnant, snowing out, went down the street, got her car towed. You don't think I'm going to have a heartburn there and then talk to her and maybe make sure that, you know, she gets some type of recession back, at least pay my driver, you know, or whatever, give back the difference of the fee. I'd gladly do that all day long. I've just never been given that opportunity. We were really close back when Jay said he's really thought about it hard, but then he decided at the end, according to Brian Stout, the former person that ran this place, or ran the county manager's office for the towing, said that you were close, John, but he'd rather have the actual solid tow complaint and not you intervene in the people who maybe not make the complaint. I don't care. Keep the complaint on file, but let me address that and move forward. So.
All right.
Anyone in virtual land?
Everybody, this is State Delegate Alfonso Lopez. Thank you for the opportunity. First off, I'm so happy that TTAB is finally meeting again. This has been a fascinating conversation. I will say that there's a reason why advanced towing has not lost a case. The state code is it's been used and abused to the point where, because there's no consumer protection section regarding trespass towing and predatory towing, the only place that you can really go with a court case and who can bring a court case is the Attorney General in Planning District 8. And then on top of that, you can only get $150 for every citation. And so what we have here is like a Frankenstein's monster of a state code as it applies to trespass towing. And that's been bought and paid for through lobbyists over the last 15, 20 years. And we need to fundamentally change how we do trespass towing in the Commonwealth. Now, the state senator, who is the chair of the Transportation Committee, will be putting forward a letter that will work on a work group over the off season to address this with towers from across the Commonwealth. And I want everybody to know that that's something we're going to be working on. But I won't get into the misrepresentations. I won't get into some of the misstatements. I hope they're misstatements that have been made today. But I'm anxious to see what comes out of this process. And I'm also very interested in making sure that we can right size how this process works in not just Arlington, but all of Planning District 8. So thank you for your time this evening. I know this is it's in the weeds, and it's greatly appreciated that, you know, citizens are who care enough about getting involved in this process. So thank you all very much for being here tonight.
Matt?
Yeah, just I would like to thank Mr. Lopez for his feedback, and I know that it's a great idea to review the county code and make sure that it's up to date. I have made some comments in the chat here, but enforcement is a very particularly sensitive topic to me, because, you know, again, you know, John talks about how he's never lost a case, but why do all these cases have to go to court? Like, the one thing I agree with him on is, like, we should have some sort of consumer protection mechanism in place where, you know, say when someone rips the bumper off of your car, they don't lie, cheat, and steal their way out of it. on video, literally saying, I mean, even in this meeting today, John has said he will not be following the law or the Arlington County Code that says a towing victim has a right to see the contract. Like he's literally said that in this meeting today. And so while we review the code, I think it's very important that we talk about how we enforce the code for people who literally tell you in these meetings that they're not going to follow it. And with that, I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, man. Anybody else? All right. With that, I think unless anybody's got any questions for TTAB members, I think we're good. I'd like to thank you guys for a good first work session.
Thank you.
It may seem like we didn't get a whole lot done, but I think we did. I think there's definitely stuff that we got accomplished today, and I'm very proud of what we did. So I look forward to the second part, because I know we all want to come back and have a meeting again, because we like hanging out. Right?
Thank you for all your hard work. That's good. I like the way we're doing it.
So, and then we'll get, like I said, we'll send out emails for the next meeting, and then I look forward to it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you